Harry and Meghan cannot leave the royal roles behind. This is an absolute cosplay royal tour, and the red flags are there. King Charles, Harry, and Meghan are going to do whatever they can to undermine the monarchy, and he is allowing them to.
Is Meghan Markle's team practicing their PR? Me think so.
Meghan Markle, she's over there, been doing solo shots. She's like, I'll do a group picture. Paid $3,200 one group shot.
Here reportedly pushing for a wild $1 million speech. That's them grabbing attention. That number sounds huge. The kind that people stare.
This is a clear sign that they're not selling the types of tickets that they wanted to be selling, that carried up the audience that they assumed he was going to attract.
But then you look over at Melbourne this week, and the whole energy feels off. Like something, tickets aren't exactly flying out, and despite all that loud promotion, the space still noticeably half empty, and people raising eyebrows and asking questions. Right now, Harry is in Australia, moving through what his team is calling a major speaking tour. But the reality of it feels a bit. An event is a workplace mental health summit in Melbourne, and at first glance, legit.
Well. Yeah, and she's not anything because she's managed the mix to spreading news in her favor to discredit us.
Big venue, 2-day setup. Industry professionals, everything looking clean and official. Once you dig into that polished image, telling another story entirely, and it's not matching the at all. This didn't just dropped hard. First, it's sitting at $2,400. It slid down to $2,000, then got cut again to $1,000, and now it's all the way down to $1 for online access. It's corporate price cuts for one single event built around one name, and people are guessing the pattern. And behind all of this, there's one number that's popping up, $1 million.
Who has cancer. It's just rubbing it in their faces as they were instructed. And, you know, I really sympathize with the royal family here because it feels like they've lost complete control.
That's the amount Harry was repeatedly a per speech when he first stepped into this space. He made serious noise without ever being clearly shut down. Now, stack that's happening in Melbourne, where he's bringing in to $50,000. That's a massive gap, dropping from $1 million to $1,000 and still not filling seats. It's a steep fall. We're talking about nearly a 95% cut in just a few years, and that drop is hard to ignore. And even after all those heavy discounts, crowd still isn't showing up. That gap between the image and what's actually happening is getting way harder to ignore.
This was a man that upon leaving the British royal family was demanding $1 million per speech. And now it's like, no, happen for you. Not when we've seen what you're capable of saying, and it's not much.
Meghan Markle to sell 300 cats.
Kinsey Field did back this week, said it straight, no softening it at all. Harry is not pulling the crowd his team expected, and that's not, it's showing up clearly in the ticket sales. The numbers are speaking loud right now, and they're not. The earlier event in Washington already hinted at where things were heading. Seats were going for around $1,800. Expectations were sky high, and people walked in thinking they were about to hear something serious, impactful.
Prince Harry is now being seen as to give mental health expertise. He is not a mental health expert, someone that speaks brazenly about drug taking in their memoir is not in mental health whatsoever.
From a man who kept an employee of his life talking about workplace mental health.
But according to attendees, the reaction was pure confusion. One summary even said, no deep research, no clear solutions, no strong data, just personal opinions paying audience. And that left a lot of people questioning what they actually got. People paid premium prices in real value, not surface-level talk. And now Melbourne is following that same pattern all step for step.
So originally it was a 2-day summit that was like close to $2,400. There was another tier that was $2,000, but now they've added an additional tier out of desperation for a physical stream it online. You can do that for about $500. But this is a clear sign that they're not selling the types that they wanted to be selling.
I feel less like bad timing and more like something that brushed off. This isn't just one moment. It's beginning to look, and people are on fast. The original plan seemed simple. position Harry as a high-value speaker alongside Gliss and respected that it image. But a price tag like that is authority, real insight, and something unique that's here anywhere else.
But to spend thousands of dollars to go talk about business advice or best life, she can't even run her own businesses, okay? The as ever stuff, it's horrible. It's barely selling. We haven't seen new products in months. The Netflix deal, down the tubes. Stan, who's paying?
And now, the big question keeps getting louder every single time. Does the content actually match the cost? Washington already had people raising eyebrows, and now Melbourne is stacking even more depth of that. This is the point where things don't just start to crack, and once that happens, it's hard to control the narrative. Every event is starting to follow the same exact script, people fast. Harry gets on stage, and the keeps back to his own personal story.
Harry's being paid 50 grand for this, $50,000 for this speech, and as you say, they can't sell the tickets, so there's the prices, there's slap prices. As far as we know, the place is still half empty, so they're desperately trying to virtually give tickets away to spare Harry the embarrassment of having to speak to a half-empty audience.
But here's the audience isn't showing up for that alone. They're walking insight, actual expertise, something they can use and take away with. Instead, they're getting a personal narrative, a professional breakdown, and that hits hard every single time it happens. The event, that gap grows wider and then even lower, from $1 million all the way down to $50,000. That's a serious drop. 4 rounds of price cuts, seats empty, a temporary dip. It points to a clear direction, and it's not moving upward. Call it the $1 million.
Doesn't attract the audience that they assumed he was going to attract.
Everywhere they go, they spread a misery. And because the brand itself, the brand identity of Harry and Meghan is so incredibly bad that toxicity just gets spread everywhere they touch.
The screen, what was expected, what's actually big now. A 95% drop in just a few years is massive, and that is impossible to ignore. But here's what's taken an even more serious turn. Even at $50,000, tickets are struggling to move across every tier, and that says a lot. It's just the real demand might actually be even lower than what's being worked out behind the scenes. That kind of gap raises eyebrows quickly. People are paying attention now.
From the audience was like, what the heck? I think it was $1,800 for those tickets. And listen to a privileged man complain about his bringing in a castle.
Then comes the part where you stop and think. The same thing about workplace mental health has reported steady flow of staff leaving his own operation. Reports claim 25 employees have left since 2020. And that's not a small number by any measure. It brings up real questions that are hard to ignore, especially when everything is being presented successful on stage. You've got departures, a major booking fees, and venues that filling up being put is workplace well-being. That contrast stands out in a big way. People asking, who exactly is this message for? Now, circle back to what some are calling the DC precedent.
Just trying to flog to something's boring, it hurts, and nobody wants to go. Selling selfies at a hotel in Sydney for about $3 pop. It's embarrassing how far these two have fallen, isn't it?
Were set at $1,800 per seat. Expectations were extremely high, and people walked in expecting real value. But in reactions, the content didn't match this at all, and that is sticking with people. No detailed research, no solutions, just personal viewpoints being shared with a room full of attendees. And here's the key part. None of this is coming out of nowhere. Every single appearance has followed the same, and we're starting to notice it more than ever. No studies, data, layered analysis, just a focus on personal experience every time he's stage. Repetition is becoming impossible to ignore, and it's raising bigger questions. Now, the real question is getting louder.
But for Harry and Meghan, it's not working, and it hasn't worked. It's not working, hasn't worked for ages, and they keep trying the same things again and again. Right.
If people are paying for expertise, being away with something completely different, what exactly are organizers promising when they lock these events in? There's a clear gap between what's being expected and what's being done, and then the other layer pulling even more attention into the mix. While one side is speaking to partially filled rooms, reports say members in Australia linked to Soho House. and that people talk. That's an exclusive-based network and selective access, and the contrast is hard to miss.
I mean, you think there's so many people there that set up railings, they'd need crowd control? Absolutely not. The few people that might see Harry and Meghan, I don't think are really going to have nice things to say about them, but that's what's going to be a boo here and
away from one of the most recognized institutions in the world, known for its structurity, we connect to a completely different kind of private circle. That shift is standing out in a big way, and people are definitely noticing the change. Bulls to private clubs, the direction feels different, and the spotlight hasn't gone anywhere. People are watching closely, trying to figure out what this move actually means. And now, things take an even sharper, because this isn't prices or half-filled rooms anymore. It's about the image that was once being built doesn't fully match what people are seeing now.
Harry got on stage in DC and groaned about how he's lacked privacy since he was born, offered no solutions. It was just another mental breakdown for an audience to witness. And a lot of the people in DC were disappointed that they'd such a significant, I think it was $1,800.
Because all you bring is bad luck, all you is nastiness, is toxicity wherever you go.
There was a time when the pitch was clear, a high-value speaker placed alongside global leaders, offering insight you couldn't get anywhere else. That was the and it the bar high. But now the reaction is shifting, and it's going with every single event. The same feedback is coming up. People walk in expecting depth, structure and guidance, and questioning what they just heard. Some of the reactions are blunt too. Attendees are reportedly saying things like, "That wasn't what did," and "Where was the actual advice?" Those kinds of comments hit hard, spread fast once.
So my advice to all the women, take the money and invest it, okay? Take the money and enjoy being at home. Don't sit under this cheap fluorescent and listen to Markle Thunder. The only thing she found was a rich, famous...
And here's the uncomfortable speaking world. Reputation moves faster. One underwhelming might get sure, but when it's into a pattern, that becomes impossible to ignore. Organizers start paying attention, audiences hesitate, and ticket buyers stop rushing in. They start holding back and waiting to see what happens. That urgency that once prices higher starts fading piece. And then comes the bigger issue. Credibility.
Bob Shooter had told me there's going to be quietly, she's going to wait to the last minute to announce it. Be also opening a Soho house over there. And the Daily Mail over the last few days has reported
someone is positioned as an authority. Expectation is clear. Bring value. Bring something to actually use. Without that, the whole setup begins to, and right now that crack is getting wider. Bookings might still be happening, and events may still be getting but the energy around them feels different now. There's less buzz, more skepticism, demand, and a lot more hesitant building with every event.
It's a private elite club that you have to submit a request to join. You have to leave the ultimate, elite in the British royal family to go cut at a Soho house. I'm sorry, but what a farm grade.
You can feel the shift happening in real time. This isn't just about one speech or one city anymore. It's about momentum and whether it's pushing forward or slowly slipping away. And if this pattern's going, the next phase might not mean lower fees or smaller crowds. It could turn into something much bigger. It raises a serious question. Does the stage it over time? That's getting sharper. People are starting to ask it out loud. Was this really the upgrade they were aiming for? Or what's left? Everything at work out? That question is getting harder and harder to ignore.
I think of that as Catherine's early years project. Occasionally the research that she's generated through that project.
Now look at the comparison, because it speaks for itself. Catherine, Princess of Wales, built her early years around actual research. Data was collected, studies were published, and the findings were openly for everyone to see. That stands out, and people are noticing the difference fast. When she speaks, there's structure, there's purpose, and there's something real the audience can actually take away and use. It's not centered around her personally. The work speaks for itself, and that makes a big difference. Now, line that up what's happening in Melbourne, a $50,000 multiple rounds of ticket price that isn't. That contrasts out right away.
People catching on and realizing that maybe he's not an authority on all of these things. And do we really want to spend such an amount of money to listen to a grown man cry?
There's been no research ahead of time, no data preview, no clear framework shared before stepping on stage, and picking that fast. On one side, you've got and backed up, and on the other, appearances seem to carry the same depth. The market is reacting in real time, and the difference between those two approaches is becoming more obvious with every event. But here's where things take another turn. There hasn't a clear response to any of this. No for the repeated, no preview of what's actually being delivered to the cost that's still being asked. That silence is starting to stand out just as much as anything else. That silence is starting to feel loud. There's been no real pushback to the criticism visible to the narrative.
Return Down Under could not be going more disastrously for them. It is an epic train wreck so far, and they haven't even left the North American continent.
Just quiet, and people are noticing it. That's even more when you remember how this same team used to respond to pressure. Statements came fast, responses were sharp, and criticism was addressed almost instantly. But now, when it comes to pricing and audience reactions, nothing. And at this point, that silence is being louder than any could. The original message was bold. The whole idea outside the usual path. Do more, reach further, and create a bigger impact. That was the promise. People heard it clearly. But fast forward to now, it looks very different. You've got a venue that filled, who clearly defined expertise up front.
Leave the ultimate, elite in the British royal family to go cut at a Soho house. I'm sorry, but what a fall from grace.
And ticket prices that have cut again and again. From $1 million expectations down to just a fraction of that. And drop doesn't go unnoticed, and it starts how everything is viewed. Its perception shifts like that. It becomes much harder to build momentum. Platform ill there, no doubt about that. Attach being, and while this is unfolding, there are also reports of separate appearances and exclusive experiences happening in other spaces. That adds another layer to the story. People are noticing the contrast. Same name, same level of, but a completely different reaction from the public. What started off as if expectations is now shifting outcomes, and that change being impossible to miss.
She's never supported women. When the Queen was on her death, what was she doing? She did Oprah interviews. She was doing Oprah interviews accusing her in-laws of racism and saying that they drove her to be miserable and drove her to be, and this is called the Her Best Life Retreat.
The shift is clear, and people watching very closely to see it plays out. And this trip isn't over yet. Whatever shows up, no matter the stake for long, actions spread fast, and every single moment is more than ever right now. Then things take another turn, because the focus moves away from headlines, pricing, and speculation, and to what actually happens inside the room. That's where the real begins. The second, steps on stage. All the promotion, all the build-up. It all comes down to one question. What does actually expect time to deliver? And this is where the pressure really hits. People aren't casually anymore. They're showing up with questions, doubts, and shaped everything they've already heard. Some are curious, some are skeptical, and others just waiting to see if this is the moment that's finally turn around. To be real, a turning point. The content actually lands. If something real and useful is delivered, the whole narrative could shift fast. One performance can rebuild interest, and bring that momentum right back into play. It only takes one moment to change the tone of everything. But if the same pattern that's where the real problem starts to grow. If the audience walks again feeling like they came for and won't stay in the room for long, it spreads fast. And in today's world, it's instantly. One response, and before long, the entire conversation shifts again. Only this time, it's even harder to control. One comment turns into 10. 10 turns into hundreds. Suddenly, the entire story is being shaped by those reactions. That's the real risk right now, and it's moving fast. This isn't anymore. Proof, not what could happen. What actually happens the most, and the stakes, they're higher than ever. Every word, every point, every second on that stage is being watched and remembered. Nothing slips by unnoticed because this isn't just a speaking of more, it's a full-on test to value a test of ability, a test of whether the audience believes there's something worth showing up for. Once that passes, there's no going back, editing it, no rewriting it, no second version to fix anything. Happens on that stage a story, and that story sticks. And then it's to the event. That's where the real impact shows up. Not the promotions, not the pricing, not even the headlines, but what people actually walk away with over. That afterward is what really matters. Because once the audience starts talking, that's when the narrative locks, and by then, it's already out there for everyone to see. The conversations as they walk out start popping, being shared by attendees. That's where the truth really starts to show. People talk, they compare notes, they share honest opinions, and they don't hold back when things doesn't meet expectations. The experience feels worth it. That is fast, doesn't. That spreads even faster, it's harder. And right now, that risk is sitting front and center where everyone can see it. This isn't happening in isolation either. Each event builds on the last one, and every reaction adds another layer. Over time, those layers stack up and turn into a reputation that's tough to change once it locks in. That's how momentum works. Either builds or it breaks, and there's no middle ground for long. And here's the key detail people can't ignore. In this value isn't decided by past, it's decided by the in real time. They're the ones who determine if something is worth it, if it actually delivers, and if it's worth recommending to others. No means no momentum. And without a strong reaction, everything starts to stall fast. No real demand? It really can be that. So now, all eyes are locked. Happens next. Will the flip, or will the same concerns keep showing up again and again? This isn't about promises anymore. It's about outcomes. And outcomes are what the direction everything that follows. This is the things be clear. The build-up is a set, and the audience is already walking in with a. If the delivery finally matches the miss, it can change fast. Doubt can turn into hesitation into real demand, and the entire narrative can shift almost overnight. That's how quickly perception moves. When people feel like they've actually received something, but if it doesn't land, if the same reactions show up again, then that pattern locks in deeper. And once that happens, it becomes much harder to shift no matter what comes next. And once that happens, it's not just about one event anymore. The standard people it moving forward. That's when everything shifts. It's no longer about building hype. It's about trying to rebuild trust. And that's a complete challenge. Rebuilding trust is harder, slower, and way more demanding than creating buzz in the first place. So this next phase isn't important, it's critical. Every appearance, every stage, every message delivered from here for before. Because right now, the story isn't finished. It's still being written in real time. And the next reaction, the next audience response, could be the moment that everything goes from here. At this point, action is still taking shape, and every single event a piece to the big. People are closely paying attention to every detail to see how this plays out. But if the run doesn't shift soon, this won't stay limited to just one tour or one appearance. It could start redefining the inner path forward, and that shift can happen faster than most expect. When the audience starts making the full call, everything changes. That's and really is. And now it all comes down to what happens after the spotlight fades and the clears out. That's when the real judgment kick. People see everything they heard, breaking it down and deciding if it actually not. Because in the end, it's about the introduction, the headlines or the build-up. It's about what do people remember this day? What do talk about later? That's that really defines when work. The message was strong, it connected, delivered something real. That impact keeps growing. People share it, talk about it, and bring it to the conversation. That's how momentum builds, in a real way. But if it falls flat, that silence says everything. Excitement disappears, the conversations fade, and the attention moves somewhere else fast. And right now, that's the everything is sit because people decide how they feel decisions, and when it does, it's almost impossible to pull it back. And once that reaction settles in, it starts shaping everything that comes next. Future events, future bookings, even the way people talk about them. It all gets fed through what just happened. That's how fast things can shift and takes over. Because in this space, people buy tickets, they buy expectations. They're investing money, and attention, all based on what they believe they're going to receive. And if that expectation isn't met, they don't just walk away quietly, they talk about it. It's when hesitation's creeping in. Audience don't rush to buy. They question. They wait to hear what others are saying first, and that hesitation spreads clear as excitement once did. So now, every carries even more pressure. Every becomes a moment to either rebuild that confidence or lose even more of it. At this point, it's no longer about proving, it's a proving because one good must spark interest, but repeated results are what rebuild trust over time. It doesn't wait, it moves fast, and it doesn't hold back. And once that momentum builds, turning it around becomes a serious. That's the reality of how quickly the entire story. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments and say what you really think about all of this. Are people expecting too much, or is that actually real? Let it be known. If this breakdown gave you a new, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and stock to deep dives like this. And don't forget, share this with someone who needs to see it. Because once this conversation starts, it's fast.